All right, so it's fight week. It's only Tuesday. Your boy's already drained because we're making it rain with videos all day. Yes, we're back. And as I just said, we are live this Friday, 11 a.m., probably actually 10 a.m. PST. And we're going 24 hours. I want to see you guys there. But today, we are continuing our How Fighters Win Their Fights on the Prime card. And today, we become a Fury, man. Because Tommy Fury is fighting KSI in the main event. And whether it's his go-go gadget arms, his bean pole, 2 stick legs, or his double wide trailer built body, Tommy has a lot of advantages in this fight. He should win this fight. But my job is to try to explain how he wins this fight. Tommy Fury, KSI, it seems one-sided, but how does Tommy make that a reality? How does he beat KSI? The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so let's start with what Tommy does well, what he can capitalize on just in his repertoire. He has fast hands. He has a great jab. He has a size, reach, experience, and skill advantage over KSI. We're checking boxes like a fucking FedEx or Amazon delivery driver souped up on that update. We're moving quick and checking everything. That is how good Tommy is comparatively to the rest of the influencer boxing scene. It's not that Tommy's a great professional prospect that, even though he says he has world championship aspirations, actually has those. Otherwise, he wouldn't be fighting in influencer boxing. But for this scene, that is what we get. Tommy Fury has years on KSI. He's been boxing since he was 6 years old. And his style of fighting is one that can give KSI problems, especially with his jab. Because Tommy has such a reach advantage, he has such long, lanky arms, you're going to see him be aggressive with his jab early. That doesn't mean he's going to just come out front foot and try to walk KSI down. I don't think that that is the case. I do think he will be a bit more aggressive than he was with Jay, but that's based off the fact that he hasn't seen JJ fight backward yet, and he wants to see what that looks like. It's going to be a key in this fight is getting to know a bit more about what JJ does in different scenarios. We still don't know how he reacts to certain instances in the fight. We just don't know. What we do know is that Tommy is going to be very volume heavy with said jab. And even if you believe what he said in press conferences, what his dad has said, no, I'm not talking about them saying, my dick's bigger than you. My dick is bigger than you. That's not what I mean. I mean when they said, listen, he is a small guy and we are going to treat him like a small guy. In other words, big power punches could potentially be in the game plan this time around for Tommy Fury. Let's go back to the Jake Paul fight. Watch him just work off his jab, not really be able to land a ton of power unless it was off the jab to the body. There was not a big power surge from Tommy in that fight, and I think he's very disappointed in his performance versus Jake. I think for Tommy to say he was going to do certain things to Jake and then go to a decision with the guy that had only been boxing for the last 4 years. While I did pick Jake to win that fight, I did expect more from Tommy. It ended up becoming a boxing match, and Tommy was the better boxer by far on that night. So how do you take that next step? And what he's been saying in the lead up, he wants to put a beating on KSI. He wants to, in his own words, not let JJ walk out of that ring. Send him to the hospital. This has become a bit more personal to Tommy in the fact that I think he wants to prove not only that he's the best of this influencer boxing thing, but that influencer boxing shouldn't exist. This is what you're going to get from Tommy Fury a little more, I think, to start the fight is, yes, a little bit more front foot, but more sitting down on punches. And that's a little bit of a risky game to play with JJ because, again, the one big chance that KSI has of beating Tommy, and we'll talk about it in a separate video, is his big-time power. So the more Tommy sits in range and allows JJ to throw that, it is a little bit of a risky ball game. And we'll get back to why Tommy has to do exactly that, why he has to get into the fire, in my opinion, to win this fight the way he wants to win it. Like, in my opinion, yeah, Tommy could easily box his way out of this fight, jab and stay on the back foot and make this a boring decision. I don't think that he wants to do that this time. He has that ability, but I don't think he wants to do that. And again, Tommy does have multiple ways to win this fight, but I want to get back to that entering the fire, that risk that Tommy may take in this fight a little bit later. But before we do that, let's also talk about the weaknesses of KSI and why, again, Tommy can capitalize. JJ is not a fundamental boxer, and it takes a level of skill and a level of experience to become a good fundamental boxer, meaning you master the fundamentals of boxing. You master the jab, you master the footwork. You don't cut corners in your technique to make up for the lack of time or lack of skill or whatever it is trained in this sport. You dedicate to becoming the best technically, the best at the movement, the best at the sweet science. JJ just hasn't had that kind of time, and quite frankly, he hasn't trained to be a fighter in that way. He's trained to make up for a lot of lost time and to utilize what he has in his arsenal: explosivity, power, all those things. But when you cut those corners, there are holes in your game, and for JJ, we know it to be his wild and almost erratic throwing style, right? His offense that prioritizes strictly forward movement and almost no defense, putting himself in positions sometimes when he does want to land a big shot to get hurt on the back end of that shot because he's so fully committed to landing big time power. Again, this has been in the past, but we still have to see. We know JJ's training like a madman. How does that offensive style, round after round after round, with all gas, no breaks, how does he look in those last 2 to 3 rounds? And while his technique isn't the greatest to start, does it diminish as his cardiovascular system does as well? In this fight, I see Tommy being able to take advantage of windows in space, opportunities, where either JJ flies in with a combination and fully commits, and Tommy Fury, because JJ likes to duck that head as he throws overhand, Tommy looks to step back, bang the uppercut off the back foot, circle off the lead foot, and escape back to his jab. Or because JJ throws so much into punches and sometimes fully commits, puts himself into range without any sort of escape plan, Tommy Fury invites that attack, either gets to the clinch, works the body inside, or starts to sit down on punches and push JJ backward where he hasn't necessarily fought before. I think both of those scenarios are likely. For Tommy to be able to push JJ around, it has to start off his jab and again off his front foot. But again, he also has to get the attention of JJ with big power punches. No one's really hurt KSI since the Logan Paul uppercut. No one's touched him and really given him a reason to back off. So he's been all gas, no brakes, full steam ahead, fucking train coming down the tracks, and you better get ready because it's over and over and over. And yes, JJ's gotten better with his setups and planning attacks and having different ways to enter range that's a little bit more sneaky, but the goal is still the same: to knock motherfuckers out. So again, Tommy has a couple of options there. He could choose to just stave off JJ with the jab, make this one of those fights where he just circles and jabs his way to victory. When JJ gets a little too close and the heat gets a little too hot, get to the clinch, back to his range, work the jab. That could easily be what happens. But again, Tommy Fury, in my opinion, wants a little more than that. And we talked about it just a second ago. What happens if JJ gets pushed back? What happens when you bully the bully? In this case, JJ is bullied a lot of people in this influencer boxing scene with his mentality, with his tenaciousness, with his ferocity, with his attack, with his volume, with his power, with his pace. It's just overwhelming to guys. Like when you watch JJ and face Temper, Temper is handling himself fairly well for the first minute and a half, just being able to keep himself safe, right? Trying to counter when JJ commits a little too much, but KSI continues to get closer and closer and closer with the shots that he wants to land, and eventually he breaks through. Eventually, that power, that pace, that aggressiveness becomes too much for someone without the experience enough to understand how to stop that forward motion, how to switch the fight. This is going to sound ridiculous, and I understand that, but just bear with me for a second. There's a lot of people that call KSI the Deontay Wilder of our scene. Obviously, Tommy Fury takes after his older brother Tyson in the way he fights, his style of fighting. It's a carbon copy of Tyson, at least Tyson from like 2008 to 2015. Herky jerky, a lot of feints, a lot of movement forward to get to his jab, and then sometimes crowds the right hand. But when faced with a power puncher in Deontay Wilder, and again, this is not a one-to-one comparison, but for our scene, Tommy and JJ could play out a little bit like Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Let me explain. Again, I understand. We talked about in the first Deontay and Tyson fight that Wilder needed one punch. He needed to be perfect for 1 second, whereas Tyson needed to be perfect for 12 rounds. And that was basically what we saw in the first fight. We saw a lot of forward movement, a lot of aggression from Deontay Wilder. We saw a lot of back foot, jabbing off, feinting, being slippery, defensive from Tyson Fury. And for the most part, that was winning him the fight. Sure, he got dropped in the mid part of the fight, but he was winning the rounds pretty handily. And again, we're not going 12 here, we're going 6, but at some point, Deontay Wilder was able to find the chin. We all know what happened in that 12th round. The right hand over the top puts Tyson down, and on the way down, he eats a left hook for it as well. And he needed the grace of God, the powers imbued to him by the Travelers, and a reincarnation of the Undertaker to get off of that mat and get back in the fight. But what happened then was what I think we may see from Tommy Fury in this fight. No, I don't think it will take Tommy getting knocked spark out, mate, and then finding a way to get to his feet for it to happen, but what happened after Tyson got back to his feet? He took the fight to Deontay Wilder. He went on the aggressive front foot and made a guy that at that time we didn't know, because no one had ever made him box on the back foot. It was like watching the final 30 minutes at the club on a Saturday when the only guy left on the dance floor is taking about 12 shots of fireball and the legs aren't communicating with the brain. He had no balance. He could not move. He couldn't keep Tyson off of him because he never had to fight there. And because of that, and he was struggling to adjust in real time, Tyson figured out what we all started to understand, is that the fundamentals of boxing took over. And when you can't bully someone and the bully gets bullied, what else do they have? What else is in the tank? Because if you're JJ and only thing you've prepared for is all gas, no brakes, full go, there is no awareness of how to keep safe defensively if that big shot doesn't land, or if it does land and Tommy's able to take it. And as the old Rocky line states, keep moving forward. That's the danger zone for KSI, and that's where Tommy Fury can absolutely live and potentially tee off. So how does Tommy Fury beat KSI? In my opinion, it's one of two ways here. Tommy Fury either does what Tommy Fury and the Fury fighting family has always done, and that is box fundamentally and sound on the back foot, on the front foot, variety, jabs, clinch, and give a lesson to KSI in the squared circle while avoiding the tyrant madman looking to land a right hand. Or, as we've seen in the lead up to this fight, Tommy Fury basically has said KSI doesn't belong in a ring with him. He's basically said that this YouTube boxing, he's here to kill it. He's here to end it all. And whether you believe him or not and how seriously he's taking JJ, the only way to really prove the things he said about JJ, that he doesn't belong in a ring, that he's going to knock him out in the first, maybe second round, maybe third, is to be able to adjust to an unorthodox boxer, to a guy that doesn't box in a fundamental way, a power puncher that mainly only moves forward, and flip the script on him. Yes, being defensively sound. Yes, not walking into right hands by jabbing into range, and something we're going to talk about in the KSI video I have coming up, but also entering the fire. So that's how Tommy Fury, in my opinion, beats KSI. You guys comment down below. What do you think happens in this fight? The main event is coming up. Man, this card is so fucking big that day by day we get closer and the nerves, they start going. So I hope you guys are ready. This is once in a lifetime shit we are going to see on the Prime card. I heard Conor McGregor's going to be there. I heard Jake Paul's going to be there. I'm not going to be there, but that's how I see it going. Can Tommy Fury do those things, and can he beat KSI? I think so, but I don't have those answers. I guess we'll find out.